The wind was sharp that evening, cutting through the wide valley like a knife through cloth. The plains were dry and restless, carrying whispers of dust and distant thunder. Ethan Cole rode alone through the emptiness, the hooves of his horse dull against the cracked earth. The sun was sinking behind the canyon, spilling gold and blood-red light across the sky. He'd been riding since morning, chasing a silence he never could catch, and every mile felt heavier than the last. He'd spent most of his life in these lands, fighting for a patch of dirt that barely yielded enough grass for his cattle, for a house that was more wood and memory than home. The world had changed around him, but the ghosts never left. He could still see the night flames devoured his family ranch, the silhouettes of riders vanishing into smoke. That image lived behind his eyes like a brand, a scar that never healed. His horse slowed as they crested a ridge overlooking a dry riverbed. Something below caught his attention, a flash of movement where there should have been none. He tugged the reins, scanning the land. There, near the bottom of the gulch, lay a shape, small, human, half hidden beneath a torn shawl. Ethan's gut tightened. He swung off the saddle, his boots sinking into the dust as he descended. The closer he got, the clearer it became. It was a woman. Her dress was ripped, one sleeve soaked dark with blood, her breathing shallow and broken. Her hair, tangled and heavy with dirt, clung to her face. He knelt beside her, hand hovering uncertainly above her shoulder. "Ma'am," he said softly, "can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, brown, glazed with pain. Her lips parted, voice barely more than a breath. "There, it hurts." The words hit him like a bullet. Not the sound, the tone. Desperate, weak. It pulled him backward in time to a night he'd spent years trying to forget. A woman's cry, the smell of smoke, blood on his hands. He blinked hard and shook the memory off. "Easy now," he said, his voice rough. "You're safe. Just stay still." He looked around, scanning the horizon. No sign of wagons, no campfire, no fresh tracks except hers, and a few deeper prints leading away, horsemen, maybe 2 or 3. Whoever did this had left her for dead. He unstrapped his canteen and lifted her head gently. "Here, drink." She sipped, the water running down her chin, then winced. "They took it," she gasped. "The bag. You have too." "Shush," Ethan murmured. "Don't talk. You're lost in blood." He pressed a hand to her wound, the warmth seeping through his fingers. "Who did this?" he asked. Her breathing hitched. "Men, with red scarves, North Ridge." She coughed hard, the effort racking her whole body. "Bandits," he muttered. "Redden's men, maybe, the same cutthroats who'd been robbing travelers for months." He tore a strip from his saddle blanket and wrapped it tight around her side, tying it firm to slow the bleeding. She let out a small cry, her body trembling. "There, it hurts," she whispered again, weaker this time. Ethan froze for a moment, then forced himself to keep going. "I know," he said quietly. "But you gotta hold on." When he looked into her eyes again, he saw fear, not just of dying, but of something worse. She grabbed his wrist suddenly, her grip surprisingly strong for someone fading. "Don't take me to town," she whispered hoarsely. "Promise me." He frowned. "Town's the only place with a doctor." Her eyes went wide, panic lighting them. "No, they'll find me there. Promise me you won't." Her voice cracked, but there was something in it, a truth, a secret. Ethan hesitated. In the West, you learned quick when someone was lying. And this woman wasn't lying. She was running from something far bigger than a bullet wound. He looked toward the far ridge. The sky was turning black, streaks of lightning flashing behind the mountains. "If not town, where?" She tried to speak but couldn't. Only one word slipped out: "Away." Her body sagged against him. Ethan looked down at her, helpless. He should have left her. That's what any sensible man would have done. Trouble like this had a way of spreading fast, and he'd already buried enough pain to last 10 lifetimes. But something in her voice, in the way her fingers clung to his sleeve, broke the walls he'd built around himself. He looked up at the gathering storm. "All right," he muttered. "You win." He lifted her carefully into his arms, surprised at how light she felt. The rain started to fall, cold, sharp, and heavy, as he carried her to the horse. He laid her across the saddle and climbed up behind, holding her steady. "You hang on, Maria," he whispered, not even sure why he said her name. Maybe he'd heard it when she was drifting in and out. The wind howled through the canyons as he urged the horse forward, heading toward his ranch miles away. Thunder rolled like distant artillery, and flashes of lightning revealed brief glimpses of the land, twisted trees, flooded gullies, endless dark. He didn't look back, though part of him swore he heard hooves far behind, faint but growing. After what felt like an eternity, the outline of his ranch appeared through the rain, a lonely cabin, a broken fence, a single lantern flickering by the door. He dismounted, his legs stiff, and carried her up the steps. Inside, the air smelled of cold ash and old wood. He set her down near the hearth and lit the stove, sparks flaring to life. The orange glow spilled across her face, making her look almost peaceful. He tore another strip of cloth, cleaned the wound as best he could, and whispered to no one in particular, "You'll be fine. You got to be." But deep down, he knew the truth, the kind of wound she carried wasn't just in her flesh. It ran deeper, and whatever she was running from was coming their way. Outside, the rain grew heavier, drowning out the world. Inside, he sat by her side, listening to the uneven rhythm of her breath. She was a stranger, yet somehow she carried the same weight he did, a soul bruised by the land, by men, by fate. He leaned back, staring at the dying fire. The wind rattled the windows, and he whispered to the night, "What have you brought to my door this time?" But no one answered, only the storm, and far off in the distance, through the thunder's roar, the faint echo of hooves whispered back. The dawn was still hours away when Ethan Cole stepped back inside, dripping rain and gun smoke, his boots tracking mud across the wooden floor. The fire had burned low to embers, casting a dull orange glow on the cabin walls. Maria lay where he had left her, her face pale but her eyes fixed on him with a look that mixed fear and gratitude. He reloaded his rifle silently, his movements slow and deliberate, each metallic click echoing through the tense air. "They won't stop," she whispered, voice raw. "You killed 2 of them, maybe 3. But Redden won't forgive that. He'll bring the rest." Ethan didn't look at her. "Then we'll be ready." He set the rifle down, leaned it against the table, and grabbed the whiskey bottle. He drank, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and said quietly, "You said that ledger could hang him. Where is it?" She hesitated, clutching the blanket tighter around herself. "Buried near the creek, under the old cottonwood. But it won't matter if we're both dead by sunrise." He met her gaze, and for the first time that night, she saw something in his eyes that wasn't anger or weariness, it was purpose. "You saved my life," she said softly. "You didn't have to." Ethan stared into the fire. No one deserves to die alone in the dirt. Not again. She didn't understand his words, not yet, but the pain behind them was unmistakable. Outside, the rain eased into a cold drizzle. The world felt eerily still, as if holding its breath. Then, faint and distant, came the sound of more hooves. Many this time. Maria's hand trembled around the blanket. "It's them." Ethan stood, grabbed his rifle, and moved toward the door. He glanced back once. "If I don't come back, you take that ledger and ride east. Find the marshal in Abilene. Tell him Ethan Cole sent you." "Don't talk like that," she said sharply. "You're not dying tonight." He gave a faint, broken smile. "Everybody dies someday. Just gotta make it mean something." He stepped out into the cold, misty dark. The horizon was alive with movement, 10, maybe 12 riders coming fast. Torches burned against the gray sky, their reflections flickering in puddles across the field. Ethan crouched behind the fence post, every sense alive. He'd seen battles before, but this one was different. There was no glory here, only survival. The men reined in at the edge of the pasture. A tall rider dismounted and walked forward, his slick black coat glistening with rain. Even from a distance, Ethan recognized him. Clayton Redden, the same man who'd burned 3 towns to the ground for less than what Maria had done. "Cole," Redden's voice boomed across the field. "You got something that belongs to me. Hand her over, and maybe I'll let you keep breathing." Ethan raised his rifle, sighting down the barrel, but didn't shoot. "You've already taken enough from this land, Redden. You want her, you'll have to come get her yourself." The outlaw laughed, loud and cruel. "You think you can stop me? You're 1 man against 12. Ethan spat into the dirt. "Then they ain't enough." The first gunfire came sudden and wild. Bullets tore through the fog, striking wood and stone. Ethan rolled behind a trough, returning fire in short, measured bursts. 1 man fell, another's torch went dark. The rest fanned out, trying to flank him. The air filled with thunder, real thunder and the kind men make with gunpowder. Inside the cabin, Maria pulled herself upright, clutching her pistol. Each shot outside made her flinch. She wanted to run, to hide, but the thought of Ethan alone in the storm rooted her in place. She crawled to the window and peered through the crack. He was there, half hidden in the dark, reloading calmly while lightning carved his shadow against the fence. Something broke inside her then. The fear that had ruled her for years gave way to something fierce, desperate, alive. She pushed herself to her feet, pain stabbing through her side, and limped toward the door. When she stepped outside, the rain hit her like ice. Ethan saw her silhouette and shouted, "Get back inside." She shook her head. "Not without you," he swore under his breath and fired again. "You'll get yourself killed. So will you," she shouted back. "At least let me make it mean something too." A bullet whined past her ear, embedding itself in the post beside her. She flinched but didn't retreat. Instead, she raised the pistol with both trembling hands and fired toward the figures near the barn. One dropped, the other scattered. Ethan looked at her, disbelief and admiration flickering across his face. "You're out of your damn mind," he muttered. "Guess we make a good pair then," she replied, breath ragged. They fought side by side, reloading in rhythm, covering each other as the gang closed in. The torches dimmed one by one, until the field was lit only by lightning. Then came the final charge, Redden himself, roaring with fury, rifle raised. Ethan met him halfway, the two men colliding in the mud, fists and gunmetal flashing. The fight was brutal, wordless. Years of rage and loss poured into every blow. Finally, Ethan wrestled the pistol free and pressed it to Redden's chest. "You should have stayed in hell where you belong," he hissed. "You first," Redden spat, and reached for a hidden knife. The shot rang out before Ethan could react. Maria stood a few feet away, pistol smoking, her face pale but unshaken. Redden's body hit the mud, eyes wide, the rain washing the blood from his coat. Silence followed. Ethan turned to her slowly. She lowered the gun, trembling, and whispered, "It's over." He stared at her for a long time, the fire of battle fading from his eyes. Then he holstered his weapon, stepped forward, and caught her before she collapsed. "It's over for tonight," he said quietly. "Tomorrow, we ride." She nodded weakly against his chest. "Where?" "East," he said, "to finish what you started." The sky began to lighten, the storm passing into memory. Together they stood amid the ruin of the night, two broken souls bound by gunfire, mercy, and the ghosts of the West. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the weight on his heart ease. The sun crept over the hills, painting gold across the wet fields, and the world felt new again. But deep down, he knew the trail ahead would not forgive them easily. The Wild West never did.